Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special edition, episode 102 of the M&K Productions podcast. This is a special review slash interview episode We're going over the new 2023 film Johnny and Clyde, directed by Tom Denucci, starring Megan Fox, Avon Hojia, and Ajani Russell. I probably butchered their names, but the plot of Johnny Clyde follows Johnny and Clyde are two serial killers who are madly in love and on an endless crime spree. They have their sights set on robbing a prosperous casino owned by crime boss Alana and guarded by a demonic slayer that she commands. So this movie will be available to watch in theaters, and pretty much more
On
of like you
demand.
can on demand on May 5th, 2023. So Kristen, what do you think of this movie?
I enjoyed it for the most part. So, we got a huge cast. I mean, if you know Avon Jokia, he was Beck from Victorious. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Victorious. I mean, the whole cast in Victorious was great. Victoria Justice, maybe not so much because everybody else in that show stood out more than her.
She was the worst character in the whole show.
I think that was the point of it. Like, even like if you watch stuff online, like there's a lot of people who say, yeah, everyone else stood out in Victorious except Victoria. But we got this huge movie coming out directed by Tom Denucci, and one of the most surprising things in this film is that we got All American Rejects lead singer Tyson Ritter in the film, and he's really good in it. And I got to sit down with Tom Denucci as well as Vanessa Angel. If you've seen Kingpin, then she's
No.
Claudia in Kingpin.
Really?
Yeah, so if you're a Kingpin fan, if you enjoy that Woody Harrelson movie, then you'll probably want to check out Vanessa Angel. She's in it for a small portion, but she really wanted to promote this film because of like how much she enjoyed it. So I got to speak to her for a little bit, and she gave a really great interview. And then we all want you to go check this out. Besides, going to see Guardians, because it's also being released the same day as Guardians, but we also want you guys to go check out Johnny and Clyde as well. So we are about to cut to our interview with Tom Denucci and our interview with Vanessa Angel.
Enjoy.
Hi, Tom. I'm Kristen. It's so nice to meet you.
Hey, Kristen. Nice to meet you, too.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Johnny and Clyde week. So
yes, congratulations on it.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been waiting for this moment for a while. We're excited for Friday.
Are you excited now that your hard work is now going to be paid off, because now you can just like relax and let everybody just check it out for themselves?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I love that. So there's a wide variety of, the idea of Bonnie and Clyde adaptations. What made you want to explore this, but take it to your own extremes? Because, there's this creature running around. You got Megan Fox as this casino princess. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. So what made you want to explore this world?
Well, Nick Principe, my co-writer, and I were exploring the idea of these two characters, this boyfriend and girlfriend that were just, on this bloodlust streak together. And we just wanted to take them on this adventure, almost like an old board game of some kind, like Jumanji, where it's like at every turn, there's just something else happening and the pace is always pushed forward and they find themselves in these crazy situations. And you actually, hopefully, end up rooting for them in a way, even though what they're doing is psychotic and messed up along the way. So really, it started off with just the characters of Johnny and Clyde. And then from there, we kind of brought them into this whole world. And, we found out early on that Megan Fox was kind of in the mix to play this part. And then we went back and kind of did a bit of a Megan Fox pass, where we took that Alana character and kind of tried to tailor make it so that it was really just right for Megan to come in and play it.
Yeah. So since, Megan was always like the starring, like, I guess, dream character for, to play her character, have you what was your process with the casting? Because the casting is pretty big for this. So can you go over the casting process?
Yeah, Chad Verdi, the producer on this project, had a lot to do with that. He's always been known to put together a really great cast. He's produced several of my films, including one of my favorite movies, Vault, which came out not a few years ago. And he's always been known to bring in these great casts. So I think a lot of that's relationships and reputation. And also the script. We heard a lot of great great things about the script from a lot of the actors that read it. And I think that if you have a good enough script, actors are going to be interested. I mean, it sounds simple, but I
Yeah.
think it comes down to that. There are a lot of real what we call castable parts in this movie, and the nice thing too, commitment wise, is a lot of people are shocked when they hear this, but this whole movie was shot in 14 days.
I was reading that in some of the production notes.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, like, a lot of times an easier way to get an actor to say yes to something is, hey, this is only going to be like a 5-day commitment or a 1-week commitment, or it's not like you're saying, hey, we need you for a month or we need you for 6 weeks. So I think a combination of a really tight script and a really tight shooting schedule made it really enticing for a lot of these actors to come in.
I mean, there's like this huge difference now we're seeing, especially for the TV climate, where we're getting like these big like Netflix, Amazon, like originals where, they're filming for almost like 6 months. And that's great. You're able to pull it off in such the short time that you had. So going back to The Vault, what made it working on Bonnie and Clyde more of a challenge than in Vault was?
Well, I think that, the big challenge with Johnny and Clyde was just the sheer amount of special effects and visual effects happening at the same time, sort of in concert,
Yeah.
There were a lot of scenes in the movie where we'll have a classic traditional practical effect, which, for the audience members that don't know, that means that, like, we're actually seeing some kind of a mechanism release actual blood or whatever, right in front of our eyes, as opposed to a computer doing it. Well, we had a lot of scenes with both, so it was just a challenge. There were definitely a lot more stunts in Johnny and Clyde. There was definitely just a lot more action.
And gore.
Yeah, gore, a lot of blood. So we spent more money on cleaning supplies,
I mean, hey. But so what is next for you? Do you want to continue going down this route of exploring like these new ways of your like horror and action thriller, or do you have like a different idea that you want to explore when it comes to your future works?
The truth is, and I know this might sound like a cop-out, but I just love telling stories with the camera. And, my interests change very often. It's one of those things where, I'm one of those people that when I get into something, I get really into it and I almost get obsessed with things. And I'll really love a certain song or a certain meal or whatever. And then I'll get so into them that I'm ready for something else. So I do like to move from genre to genre. I'm currently working on an action movie that I'm excited about that we're going to be making over the summer. So I don't mind jumping from genre to genre, but my first movie was a horror movie. I feel like I'll always have roots to the genre, and I love it, man. I mean, it's nice when you can manufacture a scare and that if you don't have to go through anything scary in real life.
Yeah.
You'll get to go through that feeling that we get when we kind of at the edge of our seat. That's a nice thing to be able to create.
It is. Yes, completely agree. And then one thing I wanted to also acknowledge is that Tyson Ritter of All American Rejects is in this, and I didn't recognize him. So he did a great job. And then I realized he was part of the soundtrack. So he was like actively involved with this film. So can you talk about what it was like working with him and, bringing his own creative elements from the music world to this?
Absolutely. Tyson Ritter is definitely one of the heroes of Johnny and Clyde. Like you said, on a performance front, he was really adamant. I think it's really cool that you said that you didn't recognize him, because that's what he wanted. He was really adamant about coming on and really changing the way he moves his body. And obviously he has an accent in this movie. And he wanted to be that kind of a chameleon, and he pulls it off. Very lovable character. I ended up really liking what he brought to the table. It's funny, that was one of the characters that sometimes in the script, the characters, I don't want to say underwritten, but you expect one thing. And I just didn't think that I would love that character as much as I did until Tyson sort of put the old costume on and And then suddenly he became one of my favorite characters. So
he
it
was
really
like
cool.
my favorite character, and he was easily, I think, the easiest to root for, because he's working with Megan this entire time, and then he's played, and then when you see the end, it just all turns into this craziness where I don't want to spoil, I won't spoil it. It's just,
Yeah, he gets dumped on a lot,
number.
doesn't he?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, he's a poor man.
Yeah, and as far as the music goes, I mean, I don't even want to begin to think of what this movie would sound like without his involvement. He really nailed the love letter to the 80s and early 90s throwback sounds and the
Yeah, that's what I was definitely getting from listening to it.
Yeah, we wanted people to, make no bones about it. We wanted people to know that we're paying homage to that vintage kind of a sound. This is a vintage kind of a movie. It's like you said, you get a creature running around. So it's like, it's trying to kind of appeal to people who like those throwback kind of horror movies.
What films inspired the creature of it from? Oh, sorry, I'm like messing up my words here. What was the creature like when you were like trying to explore? Like, what were the inspirations when bringing that creature to life?
I would say, like, believe it or not, like the Tarman a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we had like some Tarman vibes, and if you saw what Bakwas, that's the name of the character, looked like before the visual effects, it had very much more of like a Tarman kind of a look, almost like this like sheath of like shiny skin. But then when sometimes like you have a visual effects company audition some things for you and like, oh, we can do that. So we're like, oh wow, that's way cooler than what we have. And we were really happy with what we ended up. But really, we just wanted to create our version of the Grim Reaper. That's what he is. He's the Grim Reaper. We weren't trying to reinvent the wheel with him. Sometimes when you only have so much to work with in terms of production, time, size, scope, everything else, you don't want to try and do something that you shoot for the moon and you really miss the mark and fall flat. So we wanted to, I don't want to say we were playing it safe, but we really just wanted like a traditional Grim Reaper type character. And I think we achieved that.
You definitely did. But I'm just going to wrap up and say thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful speaking with you, and I can't wait to see your next work.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. I really appreciate that.
Okay, so thank you, Vanessa, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with me. I'm sure you're very busy on your end because you are just an incredible actress. You are a veteran actress because I've seen you in so many different works. I think you're best known for Kingpin, So I just have to ask you, what is your favorite part about being an actress and taking on so many different roles?
What a great question. Well, I have to say that I've really enjoyed it the last few years because I'm finally able to play a more complex character, being the age that I am. When I started out my career, I'm very grateful for the way that it unfolded. I got my first movie with Spies Like Us, and that sort of opened the door for me. But I really didn't know what I was doing back then. I'd done some school plays, and I knew that I liked the process of acting, but I really didn't think of it as a career. And so I've sort of grown to love acting, and it's really been a journey of self-discovery, without sounding cliche. It's truly, first of all, I think people who are drawn to acting are usually quite sensitive people, which can be a double-edged sword, because the sensitivity is what allows you to push your emotions to the edge, but it also makes you a very, sort of vulnerable and sensitive to everything around you. So having to navigate that has been kind of challenging at times. And I was frustrated for a while, sort of only being able to play a certain type of role that was mostly about the way I look. And so, but even with those, I've always tried to find some complexity to it and try to bring something to it that is just not sort of surface. But I think, in some ways, I believe it was meant for me. It was meant because it literally, when I look back on my history, when you get older and you can sort of look back on your story and you can see the unfolding of everything, I really believe that this was my way of getting to really understand myself better.
So I love the fact you can actually, make the role your own way, especially what you were just talking about, and bring something to your roles. And that brings me to the question of today's topic, which is Johnny and Clyde. How did you get in touch with Tom, and what made you want to work on his film?
Well, I actually hadn't met Tommy, and I got a call from my agent, and my agent had worked with the Verdis on some other projects prior. And so they basically just sent me the script and offered me the role of Susan, which was basically a cameo, and she comes right at the beginning of the movie. So I read it, and then I read obviously the rest of the movie, and I thought it was such a wild ride.
It is.
And so I immediately said yes, and I didn't even know that much about Tommy Denucci or really anybody else on board at that time. And then when the rest of the cast started to come together, I got really excited. And by the time we got to Rhode Island, we did the read through, and Megan was on board, and Tyson Ritter and Yvonne and Johnny. I was stoked. I mean, I thought, and I never really thought that the visuals of this movie, which I think are outstanding. I mean, cinematically, I think it's such a feast to the eyes. So that's been like a lovely sort of surprise, because, you know, when you read something, you don't necessarily have the vision that the director has.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had such a great time that I've literally worked with Tommy on 2 other movies since then, and he's an actor as well. So
yeah,
just wonderful, talented, beautiful person.
He's very wonderful. I got to speak with him yesterday, and I loved seeing his passion and driven, and the fact that he's also an actor. But I love the fact when actors can also become directors. So that's great. You enjoyed the process with him, even though you were in this film for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
How was it different compared to the other films you worked on? Because, you know, like I said, you're not in it for a very long time, which is unfortunate, but like, what made it different?
Yeah, I mean, it's always weird when you sort of come, I find this even more in TV, like when you come in and everybody's sort of established and you're coming in as a guest star or something, which is kind of like when you're only working a couple of days. But I think I was working the second day of production, so everybody was actually starting to sort of also get in the groove with each other. So I never felt, and they made me so welcomed. I mean, we had a table read, and so that's, you know, you sort of introduced to everybody in that during that process. And they are, honestly, I'm not just saying this because I'm promoting the movie, but they are the nicest people, this production company in Rhode Island. And I would do every movie with them if I could, because they're such great people. And they're so enthusiastic, and they, you know, especially Tommy Denucci, like he's just so multi-talented, and it's really an honor to collaborate with people like that. And it's not every day that you get people that are still super excited, you know, that still really are into the process and into the details, and they're not just doing it because it's a paycheck or a job.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like working with Megan Fox in that scene? Because I loved the opening, because it was very intense, and you got the feel that she is evil. So can you talk about working with her?
Yeah, it was actually good, because she had such a long process with the hair and makeup that I actually had to start the scene before she was ready. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. And she was in the read through, so I kind of had a slight idea of what she was going to bring to it. But it kind of, and just the room that we were shooting in, and there was a sort of somberness to the set in a way that I just sort of immediately got into it's, you know, once you put the costume on and you get on the set and you're with the other, it's something sort of, you hope anyway, that something magical kind of comes together, because you come with your preparation, and everyone's coming with their preparation and their looks and ideas about things. And that's really truly that's where it's sort of almost like a dance, you know, like everybody's coming together and bringing their little part in, and hopefully it's, you know, it all moves together beautifully. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Well, I'm so glad, and I can't wait to see you work again with Tom, as you mentioned. But one final question I would like to ask you is that we also have a young audience full of writers and directors and actors. So what advice can you give to them as somebody who might be starting out acting?
You just have to keep going. You just have to keep going. You just have to know you're going to get rejected, whether it's, you know, for whatever. It's just, you can't, I know it's very hard, because artists tend to be very sensitive to not take it personally, but you can't take it personally. You just have to, you have to love it. Number one, you have to love it more than anything.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you're going to be able to withstand the, you know, the ebbs and flows, which, you know, any walk of life is going to have ebbs and flows. So I think you just have to stay committed and be rigorously honest with yourself. I would say that for every part of your life, just be rigorously honest, because it's very, and also stay true to you, because there's so many voices that are going to come at you, advice, agents, managers, lawyers, other, there's so many people in your field that are going to have something to say. So you have to stick to what you know for you is the best path, or just the best choice at any given time. So that those are the things I would say are the most important.
That's probably the sweetest and most encouraging advice I've probably heard. And I've asked this question multiple times. So that was very genuine. So thank you for sharing that with our audience. And I can't wait to see you again in the future. And it was such an honor to speak with you.
Thank you. Likewise. Well, all the best to you. You seem lovely, and I wish you the best in your endeavors.